You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
You opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf Surprise, Sydney.
Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to a special holiday episode of How I Met Your Monster. If you're not already subscribed to the show, make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or your favorite podcast platform so you never miss a monster. It's Halloween, you guys. Halloween 2022.
Ding dong. Trick or treat.
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. If you don't, I don't care. I'll pull down your underwear. I remember talking about this on last year's episode that was around Halloween, how disgusting that is.
Inappropriate that is.
Yeah, that people just went around pulling down people's
Unless
underwear.
you're like staring in the mirror and you're like, I'll pull down your underwear.
Smell my feet.
You little kinky bitch. You have any candy?
Has anyone ever asked for a trick?
No, do you know what a trick is? It's a prostitute.
Like a prostitute.
It's a sexual act.
Do you have
that a prostitute
Snickers
does.
or sex workers by any chance? No, to answer your question, I've never requested a trick whilst trick-or-treating. And now I feel like I'm living with some regrets as an adult now.
Well, I guess it would be the person giving out the candy because the kids come to the door and they say trick or treat. And you'd have to say trick. And then like what happens? They have to do like a backflip.
No.
I always thought it was like, give me a treat or I'm going to trick you.
Tricks on Halloween are not like, look what I can do. That's not what a trick is on Halloween.
Is he doing the Charleston?
I'll juggle for you. A trick on Halloween would be deceptive.
Yeah, like egg in your house or...
Yeah.
So it's like a threat.
Yeah.
Trick-or-treating is like a threat. You go to someone's house, you say trick or treat. You don't give me a treat, I'm going to fuck shit up.
I actually think, that's kind of like the whole plot of the movie Trick or Treat, where, spoiler alert, but a little character named Sam, who's sort of like the patron saint of Halloween, goes around and is like, if y'all aren't playing by the rules and handing out those treats, I'm going to trick you. And by trick you, he's going to kill you in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you were the last time you ever went trick-or-treating?
It's a great question.
Wow. No.
Oh, I do remember. I went as a Spartan cheerleader. My friend was the Sherry O'Terry character, and I was Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
That's funny.
That's cool.
And every time someone would open the door, so we were in high school, so we were probably obnoxious, but we were like freshmen. And every time they would open the door, we would do like a cheer, and then like it was just funny. We would just keep doing bits.
Of course. I don't remember what I was.
I should point out to we should point out to the listeners that it is Halloween night and we all just got back from a very long trek around the neighborhood. We've eaten most of, if not all of our candy. So we're a little full, a little tired, and we have school in the morning. So,
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, some people might even be listening to this on Halloween morning. So we're coming to them from the future. Then.
Oh wow.
I should say we tend to we go trick or treating at like the crack of dawn. it's not, we really try to kickstart the Halloween season as soon as possible. But we were also out last night for I guess Halloween Eve. What did you guys call it growing up? Where you would like the night before Halloween?
October 30th?
The night before Halloween.
But you guys didn't go out and call it Mischief Night or anything like that?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about where we grew up. No, people didn't.
Do you know what we used to do? You know,
What?
This just reminded me. We used to hide in the bushes and throw tennis balls into Main Street traffic.
Oh my God, Zach.
My friends used to throw, and I swear to you, I did not partake in this because I've always been the Donatello of my group. Okay, I'm the smart, sensible one.
Mm-hmm.
So, my friends threw eggs off of the overpass onto people's windshields.
Oh, that's dangerous.
I know, and I would always be like, "Guys, this is terrible. This is so dangerous." And they're like, "Fuck you, you're boring." And I'm like, "No, I'm smart."
She's like, Jesus.
You know, there was this one time there was like this overpass. I don't know. It's like in somewhere around where we grew up. And we actually took like a stuffed body with like a mask on and we chucked it over the side. And it landed on a car and caused like a 15 car pileup.
Are you Macaulay Culkin?
It was wild.
What did you do?
We ran.
No, you're lying. You didn't really do that.
Yeah, this isn't real.
I was like, this is the plot of The Good Son.
It was me and
It was me and Elijah Wood.
me and Elijah Wood.
I was going to say, you would have said where the overpass was if it was a true story.
And then that Christmas, actually, I got left at home by accident. And these two guys tried to break into our house.
What a year.
Wow. You got them good, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
See, guys, that's the spirit of Halloween.
That's right. And it seems like the perfect year because our episode comes out on Halloween. Mm-hmm. Halloween Ends is in the movie theater, wrapping up the Laurie Strode, Michael Myers saga.
Yep.
And so now is the perfect time to revisit the original Halloween, which started it all.
Sure is.
And introduced us to Michael Audrey Myers. Did you know his middle name was Audrey?
I did.
No wonder he murdered people.
Do they reveal that in a movie, or was that just like something in like tie-in novelizations?
So here's the thing. I just discovered this very recently. When they were filming Halloween 2 in 1981, they filmed new scenes to put into the TV version of Halloween 1.
Yeah. Like a lot of it's at Smith's Grove.
Yeah. And they have there's a scene where Dr. Loomis is talking to like these two doctors on the board of the Smith Grove Sanitarium. And when they're referring to him, they're calling him Michael Audrey Myers.
That's right. I knew I heard it somewhere. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And it was pretty crazy that I've seen Halloween. I've been watching Halloween since I was a kid. And it's such a classic movie that I never knew these little scenes existed for the TV version.
Yeah. They almost called him by his initials. They were going to call him ma'am. Hey, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am. He's like,
hey,
stop.
ma'am.
I'm not a ma'am. Do I look old enough to be a ma'am? And then the killings began.
Well, before we get into Michael Myers, did you guys watch any good horror content for Halloween?
I watched some pretty horrific reality TV.
Oh, okay.
But that's it. No, it's always 90 Day Fiancé. The answer is always 90 Day Fiancé.
Gotcha.
That's all. And Love is Blind. The new season of Love is Blind is on Netflix. So,
what spooky stuff did you watch, Danny?
So, to ring in the Halloween season, I watched a good fair share of horror movie and horror TV television content. I watched Halloween Ends. That was fun. I actually flew back to my home state, my childhood home state, and watched it with some friends on my birthday, which was really wonderful, October 13th. Mark it in your calendars, people. And then I watched, just the other night, Joe Bob's Haunted Halloween Hangout on Shudder with special guest Elvira, a.k.a. Cassandra Peterson. Oh. So that was really special. Mm-hmm. I have been catching up on The Midnight Club on Netflix, which has been, talk about a treat. That's a treat. Full of tricks, but it's a treat. I watched the Disney Channel original movie classic, Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. Because I can't go 365 days without it, at least once a year.
Never even heard of that.
It's so good. It's about this mom who has a date, and it turns out to be with a vampire.
Whoa, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever seen My Mom's a Werewolf?
No.
No.
Man, You're missing out on that one.
And then this is not really horror. I mean, it's not literally not horror at all, but it deals with some pretty horrific content. And I'm very excited to say that it's the first movie from writer-director Todd Field, who did the films In the Bedroom and Little Children. And it's the new Cate Blanchett movie, Tar. I won't say too much. I highly recommend it. It's exceptional. And it deals with some very, very horrific things, but it's done in a way that is, I guess I didn't know what I was getting into when I started it. And I left the theater, kind of shooketh. So
shooketh.
Yeah, it was shooketh.
Okay.
But yeah,
He
highly
was
recommend.
shooketh.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay.
Oh, I did. You know what I did watch for the first time? And I don't know if this counts necessarily, but Fatal Attraction.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
That was great. It was one of those movies that, you always hear about and you see all the scenes and the beginning, middle, and end, basically. But I never sat down and actually watched it, and I just did. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Huh. Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah. What about you, Zach?
Well, it's funny because I too watched a Michael Douglas classic for the first time, Romancing the Stone.
Classic.
Yeah. I think I had seen it when I was a kid because I think my mom liked it, or somehow I was introduced to it. But I didn't remember anything of it. Maybe a few visuals here and there, but it was on HBO. I think it was on HBO. Yeah, HBO Max. And it's a good movie. It's fun. For some weird reason, I watched Final Destination 5.
Okay.
A weird choice when you have all of the other ones.
Well, I don't think I've seen like 3 and 4. I've seen 1 and 2, but they were just like, it was just like there. And I wanted to put something on to not really pay attention. So I was like, oh, Final Destination 5, this will be stupid. And then I just like watched the whole thing.
Yep.
It was a little funny.
Is it with the roller coaster?
No, that's 3. 5 is the one with the bridge in the opening.
Mm-hmm. The ending was pretty cool. I will say the ending was cool.
I thought they did a good job. I thought it was like a fun way to not, reinvent it necessarily, but put a new spin on it where there's almost like a human villain element to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I thought was an interesting take.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to have another like element to it. I thought it was just going to be another, you can't escape death. It's coming for you.
With dollar store Tom Cruise.
Oh my God. He looks just like a knockoff version of Tom Cruise for real. And I think he knows that. So he tries to like act like Tom Cruise.
Like when he gets really manic, it looks like a manic Tom Cruise.
So crazy. And then I did go see Halloween Ends.
What'd you think?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
At first, I didn't know how to kind of take it. About like a quarter of the way in, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then about 3/4 of the way into the movie, I was like, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was over, and I was like, man, that was good. Like, I love what they did with that whole movie, and I wasn't expecting it to go that way because the first 2 like are just basically one big movie if you put them together because it happens over one night.
The third one isn't part of that?
The third one takes place 4 years later, which I think it works out really well.
I liked it.
I know a lot of people hate it. I mean, clearly because they do something different, but
it's definitely my favorite of the 3 new Halloween movies.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I could see myself rewatching that. But the thing with that movie is I feel like you could almost even watch it because if that was like its own movie, I would also dig it, like the plot. But I feel like it could be a standalone. Obviously, there are certain specific details. Obviously, it's a Halloween movie. But if you wanted to sort of pretend it was its own thing, I think it could stand on its own legs.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing will beat Halloween H2O. It's my favorite sequel.
Is it?
God, it's so good. Mm-hmm. I could totally I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but it is next to the original one. I love Halloween H2O. It is so much fun.
Okay.
It's very much post-Scream. It's based on a treatment by Kevin Williamson. You know, like it is definitely capitalizing on that era of horror.
Mm-hmm.
A perfect trilogy in my mind is Halloween 1, 2, and 7. And you've got great Halloween movies. I'm not saying that the other ones are bad. I'm just saying if you want to watch like a tight trilogy.
So is Halloween H2O, is that a direct continuation of Halloween 2?
So, yeah. So the idea is that it's supposed to pick up from that one. But you could almost, I mean, obviously part 6 is they introduce the Curse of Thorn and everything. So you could just say that that doesn't exist. But I almost feel like it could work with 4 and 5, or at least with 4, because, you know, in that one, the idea is that Laurie died in a car accident. And then in H2O, you find out that she faked her death. But then it's like, so that means she just abandoned her daughter and then had another kid. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, I think you could watch it as just like 1, 2, 7.
Okay. Well, now that we are talking about Michael Myers, are you ready to meet our monster?
I am ready. Oh, the bell just rang on my door. Let me go answer it. Oh, it's Michael Myers. He's ready to join us. He said he's writing down. He says, I'm not going to really offer much because I don't talk, but I would love to sit in. Michael, have a seat. Help yourself to. Don't eat the Reese's.
I think that the music in the opening credits of this is the most iconic horror movie music that exists.
Yeah, I feel like everything about this movie is just iconic and sets so many standards for horror as we know it.
The impact that John Carpenter has had on the horror world is just insane.
It's crazy.
So not only did John Carpenter create some of the most iconic horror movie villains, he also created most of the music to accompany them. Yeah.
Michael's shaking his head right now. He's pissed. He thought it was going to be all about him. I'm reassuring him it is. So we're good. Let's get back on track. He does have a knife. He doesn't look happy.
The boogeyman of Haddonfield.
Michael Audrey Myers, better known as Audrey.
So the first time we're introduced to Audrey, we are seeing the world through his eyes.
Which is cool.
We open up on a POV tracking shot, which was very impressive for a movie with such a low budget.
Yeah.
You know, why is he so messed up? Is there ever any explanation?
So that's the thing is like, there's sort of like, it's two sides of the same coin. On one hand, you have people who sort of subscribe to the theory that Michael is just pure evil. You know, he's the embodiment of evil. So what he does needs no motive. You know, it's just, he just kills. You know, you might even argue that he sort of seeks out innocence, you know, the sort of antithesis of evil, which isn't necessarily true because like he'll go out of his way to not kill a baby, you know, as they do in like Halloween 2018. But then there's some people who subscribe to the theory that, well, multiple theories, not even theories. No, I guess it's just multiple takes because the franchise has sort of gone all over the place. You know, in the sequel, you find out that it's the power of Samhain and he has to kill his, you know, members of his family. And it turns out Laurie Strode is his sister, and which they've later retconned. And then they have the Curse of Thorn where they go pure like druid cults, you know, which sort of is hinted at the end of part 5, kind of in 4, then in 5 with the Man in Black. And then they go like deep into it in the Curse of Michael Myers and then just drop it in part 7. So it's kind of just like a batshit franchise in that regard.
Yeah.
But so I guess to answer your question, there really is no answer. It just kind of like depends on like how you look at it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned in 2018 when he doesn't kill the baby in the crib, because like that adds like such another like level to Michael Myers that they didn't need to do.
Like almost humanizes him a little bit.
You know, like they didn't need to put that baby crying in the crib and then he just like walks past. He like looks, I think he like stands over it for a second and then walks past. Like, they didn't have to put that in the movie. It didn't add anything except it really does add a whole lot to Michael as a character.
Yeah. It almost builds on the mystery. It's kind of like builds on exactly what we're talking about. It's like, why does he do what he does? It's like, that's the thing. It's like, we don't know. It's just, it's like, he's just silent chaos. There's really no rhyme or reason to what he does. Although you could argue the fact that the movie is called Halloween, is set on Halloween. You know, the first time he kills someone, when he kills a sister in the opening scene, you know, the first time we're introduced to him as the monster is in 1963. He's a young boy. And it's, you know, whether or not it's because he put on the costume, but it's not until he puts on a mask and becomes someone else that he sort of like allows himself to kill. You know, it's almost like it's not Michael who did it. It's this version of him, which is why I always love that it's set on Halloween. And I almost wish, and maybe I'm wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I almost wish they played with that a little bit more, because in this movie, you do see that Michael is very theatrical, you know, like spoiler alert, but later after he kills Bob and then dresses up in a sheet and puts on like his glasses, and it's kind of funny. And
it is funny.
Then later he sets up all the bodies as almost props around the house. Like he's dressing up the house, and everything is so thought out and deliberate. And again, like theatrical, that it's almost like Michael loves Halloween. Like he's kind of just, you could argue he just is trying to be festive in his own disturbing, you know, serial killer way. Because and they kind of play with that a little bit in the 2018, in the new trilogy of like his mask, like the power of like what the mask symbolizes. And you could almost argue that it's the idea of what someone can get away with, I guess, like with a different identity, you know, just like what would you do, or what could you do if you knew people didn't know it was you doing it? And I guess in that case, like he clearly had some issues. So we see like the worst version of that. Some people, it might be like a sexual fantasy, but in his case, it's killing people, going on a murder spree. So yeah, I don't know why he does what he does, but that's I think why I love this movie so much, is the fact that he is kind of just dressing up for Halloween and being festive.
I really like about the original one, without all of the extra stuff from all of the sequels and stuff, is that at this point he's just a guy. And I like that. He's just a guy. He's not like undead like Jason, and he doesn't live in your dreams like Freddy Krueger. I mean, I love Freddy Krueger, but you know, he's just a guy.
But then that, you know, that brings up a good point, because at the end, when he gets shot like 5 times and falls out the window, and then he gets up and he's gone. And it's like, if you were actually a real guy, you wouldn't get up from that.
Well, that's the thing is, and that's where like John Carpenter said that he wanted Michael to embody evil. You know, Loomis, that's like Loomis's whole narrative throughout the movie on Michael, is the fact that, you know, he has like the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. He just, you know, I was his, you know, he was my patient for X amount of years, and the guy never talked after killing his sister just out of the blue. So it's like he snapped, but did he snap, or, you know, and then in the new movies, they talk about, like in Halloween Kills, they talk about how he like transcends, which, you know, take it or leave it. Some people didn't love the direction that those movies went, but regardless, they clearly were building on, you know, elements from the first movie. So yeah, I mean, I feel like John Carpenter straight up said that that's what he was going for, but I do think that, I don't know, it's just that Halloween element that throws me. It's like, it just seems like Michael could kill any night, but he chooses this one night to kind of embrace. It's not a tradition, because it's not tradition to kill people on Halloween, but to like dress up and be someone else. And in this case, be a killer. It's his trick. Yeah, it's his trick.
He also kills on October 30th as well.
Oh, that's fair. Well, mischief night. He's like, I'm going to be a little mischievous tonight.
Yeah. What do they say? Like Halloween is when the the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like,
Maybe he's doing them a favor.
a-
Maybe he likes the people that he's killing. And he's like, listen, I'm going to help you get to heaven or the afterlife or whatever it is.
yeah, this is like the easiest way. It's like right now is the time to do it. Just like, there you go.
He's like, you're going to die eventually, and it's going to be a hard journey on that stairway to heaven, as Led Zeppelin once sung about. So I'm just helping you. So I'm going to sneak into your car at night and strangle you.
Yep. It's the easiest way to get
That's
there.
my favorite part of this movie.
It's pretty great.
The last time I watched this before yesterday was last year. And before that, it had been a long time since I've seen it. But both last year and last night, I completely forgot about that part.
Where she goes back to get the keys, and then when she comes back and just
It gets me every
opens
time.
and it just opens the door and doesn't
Yeah.
even put the keys in. Oh my God.
I also love that the actress in that scene for not trying to look, it's not like she's like aiming for like a glamour shot or anything. She looks like she's dying. You can only imagine you're going to make some faces when you're in that sort of situation. And she does. And I think that's also what really grounds it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's those little details. That's what I think is so great about this movie are those fine details, with the characters, with the town, with the pacing, and even just the simplicity of Michael. I feel like if they did throw in a little bit too much in the first movie, I think that would have taken over the focus too much. And I think that's what people would have remembered. But now we just remember the simplicity of it. In the same way that a movie like Psycho is so good. Psycho's a crazy little plot. And I feel like they could have focused, like the perspective could have been so different, but they took the perspective of the outsider's point of view. So you're really only seeing what's sort of on the surface. You're not going deep into like the headspace of Norman Bates or his background with his mother or anything like that. And I think that's what this one does so well, is because by the time Michael has his first kill and even escapes the sanitarium, we're kind of like in and out. It's so quick. It's one and done.
Yeah.
And then we spend the majority of the movie with these other characters, with Laurie and her friends. So even then we're just seeing it from their perspective. So you can't really you can't water anything down. You can't oversaturate it with too many of the details that could have ruined it. That in some cases I would argue maybe ruined some of the sequels for people by over-explaining, oversaturating.
Well, I think that's where part 2 comes in, where it really divides people with the whole sister thing.
Which is funny because I feel like part 2 could have been just as strong if they just left that out. Just have it be a continuation of the first movie. Just go to a hospital and he just follows her to the hospital. Leave it at that. But, I feel like I'm sure they got notes of like, well, you have to, expand. You have to build on it. You have to give some lore, to justify like the sequel. But
well, going back to what you were saying a few minutes ago about like, is Michael just pure evil or is he a man and all that? In those deleted scenes that I was talking about, when Loomis is talking to the doctors on the board, he says that his catatonia is just a farce. Like that's all a scam. And he's just like waiting. Yeah. And they're like, what's he waiting for? And Loomis is like, I don't know, but he's waiting for something. And
I think that's the thing is I think Michael is more playful than he lets on. He's like almost doing
He's
bit.
Playful and he's smart.
Yeah, he's very clever.
Then Loomis goes into his room and Michael's just sitting in a chair looking out the window. And Loomis says, you fooled them, didn't you? But you don't fool me.
I wish he said you tricked them.
Yeah. Trick or treat. Smell my feet.
What if every time Michael killed someone, he he left like a little candy? It's like his calling card. Or he like gives, like one of his kills is he gives someone who has a peanut allergy like Reese's Pieces. And they're like, wow, that was a tricky kill. Was it Michael or was it a mistake?
Life's great mystery.
So, okay. I don't know if I've ever seen part 2 all the way through. If Michael and if Laurie is Michael's sister, like where was she during all this other stuff?
So the idea was that she was adopted by the Strodes, but I don't know where she was in the house. Like if she was there or if she was being, it doesn't make sense because you would think Judith was babysitting her.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe, that would tie in. Maybe baby Laurie was there sleeping and maybe Judith, that would explain why Michael, because the original title for Halloween was the Babysitter Murders.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that he's going after babysitters. So maybe Judith was like the first babysitter that he killed. Maybe Laurie was a baby in the house.
Different world we would be living in.
Mm-hmm. Well, Rob Zombie's movies really, they kind of answer that question, and they have Laurie as a baby in the house.
Gotcha.
But then they kind of explain it a little bit more. Yeah. But that's just kind of implied.
That shot when his parents come home and he has a knife and they take his mask off, it cracks me up, to be honest.
Wait, why?
Because they made it, it was like they wanted it to be they wanted to freeze it.
Yeah. Well,
but they didn't. They just made the people stand there. Yeah. Like instead of just freezing the shot, they just made them stand there like this.
Yeah, they literally just stand
for like
there.
45 seconds.
The mom puts her hands in her pockets, almost like a disappointed principal, and she's like,
Yeah.
But she just
There's no like,
contemplates
what
the
have
whole
you
time.
done? They're just like, Michael.
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's the mom's face that always gets me. She just kind of is just like hands in her pocket, like, what the fuck is going on here? She's just annoyed. But yeah, I mean, that's the first time that we meet Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a clown suit. He's 6 years old. It's 1963.
He stabs Judith with a big knife.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big knife.
Michael!
Well, I'm just going to brush my hair here while I'm babysitting naked.
Yeah, well, that was after you presume, like the idea is that she just had sex with her boyfriend, but he runs up there and then I would say 3 seconds later, he runs back down. So either she kicked him out or she was very disappointed in what just happened. Now, did you know that I read this in an Esquire article that was sourcing a little documentary called A Cut Above the Rest, which was on one of the Halloween DVDs, one of them that was released in 2003. When John Carpenter was in college, he, in his class, in this psychology class, did a tour of like a hospital. During the tour, he said that he saw this kid who was about 12 years old, who was just had this blank stare, who was just kind of like staring into the void. And he said it freaked him out. He said it was just really creepy. And when he was pitching the movie, he leaned on that as like kind of a visual of like, this is how I see this character. It's based on something I've actually seen in real life. So that helped. He said he was also inspired by the killer robot in the 1973 movie Westworld, where it's just like an unkillable thing. So he sort of blended those things together and wanted to just sort of present, the embodiment of evil. And then obviously kind of accessorized it with the Halloween season. And there we have it. Michael Myers. Man. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when Loomis and Marion are driving up. Because the idea is is he now 17 or 18?
He's 21.
Oh, he's 21. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. So now he's an adult and they're going to try him as an adult, right? So they have to move him from Smith's Grove. Because isn't the idea that that Loomis thinks that because he was so young, they're probably just going to let him go or keep him in a hospital. And he's like, no, I'm here to be like, he needs to be locked up forever because this guy is evil.
Right.
Which is a little intense when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. When you're 6 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to that deleted scene that I just saw, which they filmed after part one, they filmed it in 1981. But he says that he recommends sending Michael to a maximum security facility when he's 14.
Yeah.
And he's like, your security here is not equipped to handle him, and he should just be locked up and put away.
And then look what happened.
In that scene, the head of the hospital that Dr. Loomis is talking to, Dr. Wynn, who reappears in the franchise, played by Mitchell Ryan in part 6. And spoiler alert for that, you find out that he is the one who basically, he's the man in black. He's the one who basically created the curse. Well, didn't create the Curse of Thorn, but is the one who sort of oversaw Michael and his journey to sort of, I don't know, be the Curse of Thorn's henchman or whatever you want to call it. The movie's so convoluted and insane that I don't even know how to explain it. But
that kind of plays into, in 2018 Halloween, where they were taking little bits and pieces from the franchise and little references and stuff, kind of like his doctor there, who ends up being like
Dr. Sartain.
Yeah,
that's right. That's funny. And that's what we get. The second time we meet our monster is when Michael escapes Smith's Grove and thwarts Loomis's plan to deny his appeal, which sounds so like not epic. Oh, his plan to deny his appeal in court. Oh, so cinematic.
Tell us about when he gets his mask.
Well, we never see him get his mask. So the next time we see Michael in this movie, he already has his iconic outfit on.
Everything is like sort of hinted at or suggested of how he looks the way he looks, like with his outfit, with his mask and all that.
Yeah. Loomis finds the mechanic's truck when he's making the phone call. And then later we see the mechanic's body in the weeds. And then we get Lori and Annie driving through town smoking pot. And they run into Annie's dad.
Sheriff
Yes.
Brass.
Who's the sheriff. And who's at the hardware store.
Yeah, Nichols hardware store.
Which also sold Halloween masks. And
back in the day, the hardware store sold everything.
Yep.
And so they don't think anything of it. They're just like, oh, some ropes, a couple knives, and some Halloween masks were stolen. It's like, what?
I mean, if you think about all of those things put together, it probably means that there are some children who are going to get into a lot of trouble.
He's like, I don't really know what's going on. They stole a mask, gloves, rope, weapons, and we found the phone book was open and your guys' addresses were all ripped out. But other than that, I don't know what's going on.
No idea. I don't think anything's going to come of it, though.
Probably just some kids playing pranks.
Yeah.
It's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare. Oh my God. So we never see Michael we never see him like put on his mask.
Which I love that. That's the thing is I love that Michael wears basically a costume, like he wears the mask because he knows that everyone knows who he is. He's not trying to hide his identity. So the mask is not as like a device to conceal like who he is. It's again to sort of play with the costume to be theatrical.
He just went around to different mechanic shops until he found a mechanic named Michael and then he killed him.
It does not
Michael?
have his name on it.
No, it doesn't.
Oh my
but
God.
you know how they have
how
like
did I
the
never
name
notice
tags.
He's like, son of a bitch. He's like, well, I found one that says Audrey. That's good enough.
That's good
Audrey.
enough. So our reveal to Laurie Strode, the first time Laurie sees Michael is in the bushes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that we confirm that's the first time we see him, right?
That's the first time we see him in his mask.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see him in the car, but
Yeah.
you don't get a full look at him.
Yeah.
So out of the 3 times that we are introduced to Michael in this movie, which one is your favorite?
Interesting question. Because they all hold sort of like different, like varying weights. You know, the first one is so surprising because it's like this innocent kid.
Yeah.
You know, the second one is, I think that's the creepiest that Michael ever is when he's like doing that creepy crawl onto the back of the car. That seems so out of character for him because you never see him that sort of, you know, spider-like.
Like animated.
Yeah. 100%. But then it's like, it's Michael Myers. So like him stepping out from the, I've got to go. It's him stepping out behind the bush, the shrub. Is it a bush or a shrub? Or is it neither?
It's a shrubbery. It's shrubbery.
Yeah.
What is not a shrub but a bush? I like him as a child because like Danny said, it's surprising. And also like, you know, how many times do you see that in a movie?
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And that little, his little clown outfit is pretty iconic.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's cool.
They were testing out different outfits to do, for the adult version of Michael. And it was going to be, one of them was a clown.
Well, I'm glad they went with what they went with.
Yeah. I'm actually going to throw a wrench in this plan that I came up with because I'm not going to pick any of those. I am going to pick the first time that Michael is introduced to Tommy Doyle.
That's a good one. Oh,
when
is
he
that
looks
the
out
first
the window
time?
Yeah.
and he sees him across the street and he's freaking out. He said, I just saw the boogeyman. The boogeyman's outside. So I executed my trick-or-treatery and tricked you guys
What a trick.
so I could give you a little treat.
What a little trickster.
Yeah.
Now, I feel foolish. Is not the first time we see Michael when Laurie is looking out the classroom window? Or is that after?
Oh, that's right.
But I think he's just in the car, I think.
I think he's standing outside of it. He's like posing. What if he was just like laying on the hood, like just like look like with his like butt out and he's like looking behind him at her? He was like, well, I need to make an impression.
He's got a dump truck.
Yeah, he does.
So Michael is standing outside the car.
He is. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because then they do that twist in the 2018 one where Laurie is standing outside the car for her granddaughter.
I guess I never he's kind of like he's behind the car. And so you just see like basically like his neck up because he's on the opposite side of the car.
Yeah.
And I guess I never noticed him there. I thought it was just the car because he like kind of blends in to the background. And I don't think I've ever seen him standing there. I only see the car.
Zach and Casey, have you both read or watched The Polar Express?
No.
Negative.
Okay. So in The Polar Express, it's literally just about a kid who needs to be reintroduced to the spirit of Christmas. He's getting too old. He's sold on the idea that Santa Claus is a sham. It's all bullshit. So what Santa does is he sends a train called the Polar Express to pick them up on Christmas Eve, bring them to the North Pole and be like, look, it's real. And he gives the kid this little bell and the bell rings only for people who believe in the spirit of Christmas and in Santa Claus. So like for example, like the Christmas morning, he hears it ringing and he's like, great. The dad, on the other hand, and the mom are like, oh, that sucks. The bell is broken. It's not ringing. It's like, oh, you don't believe. So I think the same applies to the boogeyman. Children can see the boogeyman more prominently at night. They know he's there. They know he's hiding. And in this case, they know he's standing next to his car outside of Laurie's classroom. Zach, you have grown into such a brave young man that you are no longer afraid of the boogeyman, which means you no longer see Michael Myers standing outside that classroom. So you should consider yourself lucky.
Man, I am a brave young man.
Yeah, but I feel like the equivalent of Santa Claus, who brought the Polar Express to you, let you hop on, see that it's real. So now you will always see Michael Myers standing there, and now you will forever be haunted by the boogeyman. You're welcome.
Thanks. Now it is time for a segment that I like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
I'll go first, guys. It's Dr. Loomis. You know why? Because when he goes back to the mental institution and leaves the next day, he's parked in a handicap spot.
Oh my God. Yeah. He trumps my real monster.
Oh, that's funny.
Damn. You don't do that.
No.
My real monster for Halloween is the bully kids who smash Tommy's pumpkin, which isn't Lonnie one of the bully kids?
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from that.
Get your ass away from that. But yeah, those kids, like, fucking bullies.
Oh, yeah.
Just
It's funny you say that because when I was watching Halloween Ends, there's bullies in that one. And I remember thinking like, okay, they're a little over the top. But maybe they were building on, the idea that in Haddonfield, bullies are a little over the top, a little extreme.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that Pumpkin was soft. He could have really hurt himself.
I know.
Right.
Poor kid.
Danny,
who do you got?
My first real monster are Michael's parents for their very blasé attitude toward his standing outside with a bloody kitchen knife and just kind of, take, you could argue that, okay, where were they on a Halloween night? Dressed the way that they're dressed. I feel like they're coming from a key party, which seems synonymous with like the 60s, where
key party,
where you throw your keys into a hat and then you pull it out and then you have sex with whoever's keys you have.
Oh, I thought they looked like they were coming home from a parent-teacher conference.
Oh, that could put on Halloween. I guess it could have been Halloween.
Two very different things.
Yeah. It was a hybrid. It was a parent-teacher conference that was also a key party. They really got to know the teacher.
They're bored in Haddonfield.
Board of education. More like board of sex education. You know what
I
mean? So they're the real monsters. But also I would say Dr. Loomis is also, I would agree that he's the real monster. But for a couple things, I just feel like he's he's not great at what he does. Most doctors, want to take care of their patients, especially if said patient was just someone who committed a single crime and then kind of shut himself off from the world.
Well, he tried.
He did, but he threw in the towel once like Michael Myers stopped talking to him. So he was sort of just like a shady little like.
I don't think Michael ever talked.
But that's the thing. It was like, is that reason enough to say like, oh, you're evil? Like, if you can't hold a conversation with me, like you must be so evil, like you need to stay in prison forever. Like, I think he's just selfish.
Rude.
And then also just, I'm just going to, kind of like double down on Dr. Loomis as much as I love him because of that line when he does scare away Lonnie and the kids from the Myers house. And he just like, the camera just holds on him with this very like this, it's not even a shit-eating grin. It's, I don't even know.
He's like so proud of himself.
So proud of himself that it's so creepy. It's kind of hard to describe. You just have to watch the movie. It's the most bizarre smile. And for that alone, he is the real monster of this movie.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Loomis.
Sorry,
well, 2 out of 3 agree. Dr. Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
2 out of 3 doctors agree that Dr. Loomis is not a real doctor.
And we should also point out, and I'm sure, like anyone listening is probably, kind of a horror connoisseur, horror fan. And they're probably well aware that Dr. Loomis is a name from Psycho, which was a big inspiration for Halloween. So we have Dr. Sam Loomis. And then Scream was, Kevin Williamson was inspired by movies like Halloween. So he has Billy Loomis. And then in Scream 5, we have a character named... All right, this is a spoiler alert for Scream 5. Okay. So you have Sam Carpenter, who is named after John Carpenter, but then you find out is Billy Loomis's daughter, which makes her Samantha Loomis, but she goes by Sam Loomis. So it's like a direct reference to Dr. Loomis. Yeah. So Loomis is like, if you're thinking of the horror genre, that name is synonymous with it. Horror would not be the same without Loomis, and Loomis would not be the same without the genre.
Yeah.
Right?
I had to think about that for a second.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, we could talk forever about Michael Myers. And since it is Halloween, let's enjoy the Halloween season. Because,
by the way, I should say that he's still sitting in the corner listening to us. He's giving us the thumbs up and he's doing like a really cocky like head tilt right when you said we could keep talking about him. So he's like, yeah, keep it up. He also has a beard.
Well, I will say this is going to be our first How I Met Your Monster installment on Michael Myers. There will be more in the future because there's so much more to explore in the world of Halloween and Michael Myers.
Almost too much more, you could say.
Yeah. So that is all we will discuss about Michael Myers on this episode. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at I Met Your Monster and on Instagram and Facebook at How I Met Your Monster. And speaking of social media, where can our listeners find you two?
I'm on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Danny Salem. Just my name. Danny, Salemme. 2 M's like the candy, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Go get you some M&Ms. It's Halloween. Everybody's giving them out today.
That's right. And you can find me on social media at Zach Winsick. And make sure to join us next episode where we will be chatting with a very special guest as we discuss the 2022 film, The Black Phone. Now, go enjoy your Halloween and go meet some monsters.